Hello, everyone. Welcome to Impact Over Image. Today, I am really excited to have a good friend of mine, Luyanda Sazi. Luyanda is from South Africa. The reason why we have him on the show is fascinating, and I'm excited because to our viewers and listeners out there, I do believe that you are actually going to learn a lot more from this episode. And I'm so happy that, he's able to join us today. I will give an introduction about him and then you tell us a little bit more about himself. And we'll go into one of the most unique projects that he's working on, and then we'll talk deeper about it as we go on. Introduction. Luyanda Sazi comes from South Africa, has earlier prefaced, such a great man, a man of the people, a man of the community. He studied project management from the University of Cape Town. And we're going to go deeper about that because I know UCT is kind of a prestigious school in your country. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's very correct, sir. Yes.
Because I do a little bit of studying a little bit. So I know UCT is not, it's a tough
I think
school
it's
to get
number
into.
one. It's number one in South Africa, and it's number one in Africa.
Oh, there you go. Wow,
Yeah,
there you go. So he
yeah,
did project management. And then he proceeded on to do information systems. And with information systems, he's also a honors student as well.
yeah.
So this man, he's such a great example to me and also to the people because of how he values making an impact in the lives of other people, especially the youth. Luyanda Sazi, he's the CEO and owner of Duwep Basketball. I don't want to mispronounce it. It's a program that brings in all the youth from all walks of life. As long as they are in South Africa, they could come from many different countries. If they are in the region where is they have a spot, to be able to use sports, especially basketball, as a means in order for them to acclimate into the community and into the society, but above all, to build confidence in the youth to be what they want, how they want them to be themselves as they continue on the path of this life. So, Rianda, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaluba Joseph. Thank you very much for welcoming me. I really appreciate this platform very much. Yeah, thank you.
You are very welcome, and we are delighted to have you. Now, quick
Yeah.
question, Luyanda. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I gave the introduction with a lot of
Yes,
passion because I've known you
yes,
for many years and
yes,
I've
yeah,
seen, you growing, your community and also
yeah,
growing the youth using sports. But in your
yeah.
own words, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
First of all, I think the UCT stuff is the last stuff about me. It's stuff right at the back. I'm a person who likes serving my community. At every given opportunity that I have, I've always mostly liked serving my community, not only where I am. I mean, I've even been a missionary in East Africa at one time. For me to go there, I had to leave my job. I had a company. I had to leave. I was doing, I think, psychology at University of South Africa at the time. I think it's a biggest online university in Africa. I mean, so I had to leave all that to just go and sell religion, sell something that most people wouldn't buy. So, but sell it as something that could change their life and stuff like that. So I've always had that thing of wanting to serve people, and I've been involved in a lot of projects where I've served people to let them use my talents and skills and my edge for learning, and whatever I learn, then I impart to those who need to learn and get to the same level or even surpass that level, because
Mm.
that's what people need. They just need somebody who's going to care enough for them to show them exactly the path they have taken to be where they are, or the path they can take to get where they want to go because of the kind of information and knowledge perhaps I might have that I could share and impart, and experiences that I have had. So I've always wanted to do that, and so after I think I came from mission, I was involved in project management of different projects, and then I think about 10 years later I decided I'm gonna go to university because I
Mm.
I, I felt I felt I could actually go to university. And then I found, I think on Facebook, because I'm always on social media, and
Hmm.
that's where the biggest community
Right.
is on social media. And sometimes we don't realize how much we could reach that community, or the information we could get if we use that social media in an appropriate way. So that's how I saw the cause I wanted to do, and I had to choose a university that I wanted to do it, and that's where that the University of UCT had the course in project management that was going to allow me to study while working at the same time, and it was their first course, a degree online, so I was more of their guinea pig.
Mm.
But because it was almost like a postgraduate diploma, so I had to show the projects, or had show them my portfolio of what I have done. So I did some assessments and stuff like that, and I was accepted to one of the prestigious universities in South Africa. So I did project management, and I was like, initially I thought I did not qualify, but I had set myself up for what who qualifies, and once I found who
Mm.
qualifies, then I prepared myself to be that person who qualifies. And once I was in the university, I stayed there, and hence I'm an honor student, information system on another degree currently. So basically that's what I do, and then after that, then I started different community projects, which
Hmm.
then led me to basketball, which is a new project that I've started, I think, in the beginning of 2022. I started with a couple of kids. I think there were two when I got to court. Then there was seven, and today they're about 100 in terms of number that we deal with between the ages of 8 and 20 years, and because 20 years is our ceiling, meaning we are a development academy. So we deal
Right.
with, so that's basically the kind of project that I'm in, and that's what I'm doing.
I really love the way you said, I'm going to go back to your words when you mentioned that you actually took an approach of studying what it takes for people to make it into the University of Cape
Yes,
Town. And then
yes,
you
yeah,
prepared yourself to be one of those people, and you actually achieved that goal for you to get in and graduated from there. Now, how did you get to a point where you felt like this is a prestigious university? Many people tout it, they talk about it. How did that mindset come about to know that, wow, even for me as Luyanda, I can definitely do this? This is not just for a select few. I am one of the people who is also capable of doing
yeah,
this.
yes. Well, what I looked at what could be the requirements for me
Hmm.
to attain what I want. What I wanted was to formalize my knowledge in an institution of learning.
Mm, mm.
What I wanted was not UCT. What I wanted first
Love
was to
that.
formalize my knowledge, to differentiate between perception and knowledge.
Right.
And one way of doing that is to test the knowledge that I have. And then I look for a university where I've decided that I want to study. And once I've decided I want to study, then I looked at the universities, then looked at the requirements, to look at what the requirements will be to enter that university. So
Hmm.
because sometimes we 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 cancel ourselves before we know what the requirements are, or we have a perceptions about what the requirements are, and then we already cancel ourselves and say, I don't qualify to be this because I don't even know what's the requirements. You'll be like, oh, this is too fancy, this is too like, if I wanted to go to Howard, somebody would be like, no, I can't reach Howard, but you don't even know what the requirements are to get to Howard.
Right.
So once I knew what was the requirements were, then I said, I'm going to match myself to those requirements. I'm going to look at each step for me to reach all the necessary requirement for me to enter the university. And once I knew exactly what the requirements were, then I was able then to say, I think now I meet those requirements. And it was for the university, because I remember my motivational letter was about 3 pages, because one of the
Hmm.
things I had to do was to motivate why I qualify for an assessment for me to enter into university, into the program that I wanted to study, um, and and I was able to do that because I knew exactly now what would be the requirements, and the requirements were that you must have experience, the projects that you have done before, that you have worked on. You might have what you call a portfolio of evidence. That was
Yes.
one of the requirements. And the other one, you must just tell us about yourself and about where you've been and where you want to go, and where you are now. And 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 once I familiarized myself with all that, then I was able to say, now I can go into that institution. And voila, I did assessment week for about 3 weeks. It was intense. Eventually, they call it in South Africa recognition for prior learning, which means your knowledge is equivalent to somebody who has a degree or more. They call it that. If you don't have, if a degree requires you to have a diploma for you to study that, that for that degree, they require portfolio of evidence recognition for power learning, which means your knowledge. Because I've managed projects for over 5 years or 10 years without an actual formal qualification, but my knowledge and
And
experience
experience.
is
Hmm.
equivalent to somebody who has a degree, and that is how I managed to enter the university. Not only that, I was able to actually help somebody to follow the same process, because I had told them, alerted them that these are the requirements and you can meet this requirement. And this guy was a manufacturer. He was turning plastic into diesel, into
Hmm.
oil, but he did
Right.
not have qualification. And I said to him, you can actually qualify to enter that university because these are the requirements and this is the course that you can do. And I think that what most, if somebody knows the requirements, then they can measure up to those requirements, and they can attain what they want to attain, because then they'll have a goal, a smart goal, that will help them to meet those requirements and then attain what they want to attain. And that's how life is in general.
Right. Right.
It's not configured to our expectation, but we can configure ourselves to the expectation that life requires.
So we
So,
should
and
be
then,
fluid.
yeah,
We should be
exactly,
very
should be
fluid. In other words, as
in
Bruce Lee
other
would
words,
like to
yeah,
say, shapeless, right? You
exactly is,
just,
yeah,
you
yeah.
change forms,
You
making
change
sure that
from, yeah, yeah,
you match
because
the current expectation or shape.
you change, your life will change the more you as a person change. So it's
Mm,
not the other way around. It's not like
love
your
that.
life will just change just because you want it to change. It has to be you who changes first for your life to change, because the change happens in your life once you as yourself said, this is a change that I'm willing to do.
I
I've been
love
doing
that.
things this way and I'm not doing them now this way. And then that's how then your life is going to change, because you have reconfigured yourself.
Hmm.
In business process management, it's called redesign. So you've
Redesign.
redesigned your worldview, you have redesigned your perspective of things, and you have changed it, and then that's how your life is going to change.
Man,
Because
I
if you're
love
gonna
that.
if you're gonna be rigid and say this is how life is, and I hate when people say that. This is
Mm,
how life is, because then they don't make any effort for them to change their worldview or their
it's
perspective.
fixed
Because
mindset.
if the perspective doesn't change, then you can't expect your life to change.
I love that. I
Yeah,
really love that. It's
yeah.
like borrowing a project management word came to mind, agile. You have to be agile,
Yes,
be
you have to
more,
be. Yes, yes, yeah,
and I
yeah,
really like what you said. Now, in
yeah,
regards to you actually did what you did, you enjoyed
yeah,
your academics, you learned, and I like the way you said it was very impactful and powerful at the same time.
yeah.
You said you reached a point where you had to match your knowledge and formalize it.
Yes,
I thought
I
that
reached
was
that.
very brilliant because
Yes,
for the most part, we have people who are so knowledgeable, but they
yes,
haven't formalized what they know. and you
Yes. Yeah.
proceeded on to actually even help your colleague also to say
Yeah. Yeah.
you are more than an engineer because you're making diesel out of plastic.
Yes.
How can we formalize that so that
Exactly.
there's some
Yeah.
sort of evidentiary proof to say yes, you can do this and you are
Yeah.
recognized by these institutions? So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
like that. I think it's important that, in life, even when we talk, we must show
Yeah.
our receipts. Okay, this is what
Yes.
I've done, but this is what
Mm.
I'm able to, to actually do what I can. And here is
Yes.
my receipt. Here is proof. Show
Yes.
your receipts, in other words, right?
Mm. Mm.
Now,
Mm.
coming to the point of making an impact, I want us to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Basketball,
Yeah.
basketball.
Yeah.
Why basketball? I know in Africa we are people who are heavily centric towards football, and here in North
Yes.
America they call it soccer, but I
Mm.
call it
Mm.
football.
Yeah.
What prompted you to be able to use basketball as a vehicle to actually help the youth and your community?
When I was growing up, I had a basketball. I like the culture.
So you were an outlier then, because
Yeah,
everybody in your peer group they were playing football, and
football, and I was
yes,
just
I
yes, yeah,
yes.
I was just different. I was like, I like that sport,
Mm,
and I did not get the attention that I needed for me to enjoy
mm,
the sport. So when
right.
I thought of something that of a project I wanted to do and to design it in a different way, in a certain way that I'm gonna get to, I wanted to give a younger version of me, meaning other
Mm,
kids, the attention that I didn't get when I
wow.
was at their age. And that is when I thought, I'm going to sports now, and I'm going to choose basketball because it was close to my heart.
Mm,
And unfortunately, I did not get that attention that I wanted, because I remember going to court and people look at my stature, my body, and they were like, "You're a power forward or you're a big man." And I didn't even know what was that, but that was the end of it. So I've never joined a professional team. I've been looking for teams when I was young and stuff like that, and I never got that attention. And I thought, now I'm going into sport, and I'm an administrator, and I'm a process person, I'm a
mm,
systems person right now. So I'm going to be use my systems thinking and process thinking when I go into sport and give young people the attention I did not get. And that exactly how I landed into saying, now I'm in basketball. Also, I saw a gap in the market, because everyone is almost forced, because if you have to choose. I remember in one restaurant I used to go to in East Africa, they will sell what you call beans, and I love those beans, but I knew that in that restaurant, that's the only thing I'm going to get. So I can't order anything else. The
right.
menu is one thing, it's beans. So what happens is this now, it's the same, because everybody now comes into if they want to play sport, they know that in my village, in my area, in my township, in my suburb, the only thing sports that is given attention mostly, it becomes it's soccer, it's rugby, it's but it's mostly those two sports, soccer, especially every township, every village, and it's rugby. And then you find maybe cricket there, athletics there. Everybody gets to athletics, and all that. There's then netball and other sport codes, but mostly it's soccer. So because the crowd it has and the market it has. And then I was like, basketball, there was no team in my area, in my town, and no one was doing development at
Mm,
all. It would be in affluent schools, maybe about 170 k's away from me, like in Durban, around the outskirts of Durban and all that. But in Richards Bay, there was no development. Schools don't play basketball. Only few schools play basketball, maybe one or two. And then I was like, okay, now there's a big market, because I think the reason it's not there is because nobody's creating a system how to make it there. Everybody's making their burger at home, and they are good at it, but nobody's a McDonald's. So let me make
Mm,
basketball a McDonald's. And because you're gonna find people that, if you develop them, then they have a choice. They can choose that I'm gonna go
mm,
to soccer, or I'm gonna choose basketball. And that's how I then chose basketball, because I thought I could better contribute. One, it's closer to my heart. Two, I'm gonna create
mm,
systems for it. Three, I've got administrative prowess that I've learned through my experience and the kind of education I've amassed. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna focus on basketball, because we can take basketball to another level, and not only in my city, in my town, but also in South Africa and in Africa. And that's how I dived into basketball. And apart from that, in terms of character, I
mm,
like how basketball develop or informs a young person, or shapes a young person's character,
mm,
and by teaching them a set of fundamentals that they could use in a certain system for them to be able to play a game and compete. And that happens with a level of discipline that will be required for you to learn a set of fundamentals, because everybody knows basketball has a set of fundamentals. And once you teach those fundamentals, then you teach a system based on the player understanding those fundamentals, and then that player is able to compete. And that's how I'll say, okay, basketball, this is how I'm going to be able to contribute in basketball. And it's been very funny how we've got young people from, like, anywhere in the country, and not only that, by the way, even from other countries. And we've received young people from Congo, as far as Congo, and being able to speak Swahili, because in Congo they speak French and Swahili. I'm able to communicate with them and stuff like that. So we've been able to communicate with young people, but mostly around in South Africa, we've got young people who who move from soccer, other sport codes, to basketball. So it was not only starting people who, but people who were already starting to be athletes, then they jump into basketball, because we've created development with them. We said to them, come, even if you don't know anything, we will teach you, because skill is something that we can teach. Discipline is something that we can enforce. So if you are disciplined, through the enforcement of discipline, you'll attain skill. And that's what we promise our young people.
wow, I love that. So,
Yeah,
in from my gatherings of what you have said, not are you only a process and systems thinker, but you are a disruptor at the same time. Because
definitely.
you look at basketball, instead of following the norm, everybody plays soccer or football,
Yeah.
everybody plays rugby. You're like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna disrupt the system.
Yes.
I'm going to go with something that is unpopular so that I can make it to be where it needs to be at. And
Because that's
I
the way.
definitely,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I applaud you for that, because to make changes, we must think differently for the most part as well. To make radical changes, you have to think in a different fashion or form. Having the kids that you've mentored and the kids that you've seen so much, I like the way you said you have begun to see some of the changes in the youth
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of sports, because the way they play basketball, I play basketball myself as well. So I like the way you said it changes somehow, it alters the way they think. You can
Yes. Yeah.
tell, who is an intelligent basketball player. You can also tell who is a selfish basketball player. But
Yes.
at the end of it, you can also tell who is a team player. They may
Mm,
not have 20 points for the game, but they'll
mm.
facilitate purely and perfectly to get the team to be where they need to be at. I call those
Yes.
guys the glue guy. This is a guy who
Yes.
puts everything together.
Exactly.
With that said, even in life, what are some of the life lessons you feel like the kids or the youth, in your program have been able to attend, those that you started with?
Yeah. Yeah, like for instance, our system and process is centered firstly on discipline. Now, that's one of the founding principles of the academy. The first one is discipline.
Mm,
Now, discipline is a character or a trait that is required for any approach, for anything that you want to approach. And 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 we enforce that, and we've seen many of them change in how they approach certain things, because then they've been able to know that their footing subject, what they start with before they learn anything, is to be disciplined first at the court and off court.
mm,
And then the second one is academic excellence, because our age group is at school. If they're not at school, they're at university. That's where they are. So so for them to be able to attain the GPA or the grades that they want to get, um, not what they can get, what they are capable of getting, they need necessary discipline. They need, and we've been able to see them, their grades go up. Um, Others being able to from somebody who used to get a GPA of 2.6, 2.2, to get a GPA of 3 and above. And that is what we've been able to see. We've been
mm,
able to get a feedback from parents to say, since you've started the program, my child has changed in this way. Because number one, they know it's school basketball home, it's school basketball home, it's school basketball home. So you don't find them it anywhere except at a court, at school, or doing anything that is their chores. So that's a second fundamental academic excellence. So we've been able to experience that. The third one is what we teach, is the skill. The time it takes for them to attain a certain skill, because of the discipline they apply, and then being able to achieve their academic goals, they're able to grasp skill very quick, and they're
mm,
able to develop in terms of the skill sets that they get as they continue to apply the first two fundamental principle and founding principle of the academy. Because for us to select somebody to make it to the team, we look at those founding principles, which are three, and they are further informed by our mission, which is to incentivize basketball athletes through an array of opportunities as a result of their discipline, academic excellence, and skill development. And some have been able to change in that. Apart from that, most of them at their age, they deal like between 14 and 16 and all that. They deal with a lot of emotional uncertainty and fluctuation. They become overwhelmed by certain things. Others too, in a serious way. But we've been able to notice them, to reach them emotionally, to see where they
mm,
are, and be able to get them back on path, to say, these are your goals. This is what you want to achieve. These are the fundamentals. These are what you call the founding principles. These are the principles that you must always, the three principles that you must always work on. And then it changes how they feel, how they approach situations. And I mean, to some it has even saved their lives, without parents knowing that, because parents will see that, oh, he's not performing well at school, but it goes beyond that. They are overwhelmed by
mm,
just everything. They don't know what to do. They are just helpless. But when they get to court and they form part of a team, then they are able to deal with their stressors in a certain way, to
mm,
balance those stressors, because then they know that feeling overwhelmed is normal. Being
mm,
stressed is something normal, but it's something that can be controlled,
mm,
because then they go and play a game. They see a game where they are losing, but when they change because of the system that's and the discipline, and you tell them a simple thing, you don't argue with the refs, And that's how their lives is, because then they've got all these situations, they've got different people in their system or livelihoods. It's a teacher, it's parents, it's a guy who takes them to school, it's a friend, it's peer pressure at school. Those are the stakeholders in their livelihoods, that they have to deal with all those things. And then they have to, at the same time, look at how they respond to those stressors.
Mm.
If they don't have the necessary discipline, and if they don't have developed a certain skill that helps them on court and off court, on court and off court, they won't be able to deal with those stressors in a way that they will be able to contain themselves. So we've been able to see that drastic change in many kids that are participating on our program. Apart from that, they know now, most of them, this is what I want to do after school, or this is what I want to do at university. Somebody who did not even like school, now I can attain this, I can attain this, and this is what I want to do, because you are able to sit with them and say, well, I see that you don't like school. But the problem, you not liking school must not give you the impression that you can't achieve a certain level at school, because that's not the reason. The
Mm.
reason you might not like school is because you might not have found a balance or a certain strategy in working that requires a certain discipline.
Wow. That.
And that is what we've been able to deal with. And sport has been able to collect those attributes, traits, and package them in the way that helps them to reposition or redesign themselves in a certain way, in terms of their character, in terms, and that's what we've been able to see. And that is the biggest impact that we have seen. Mostly for me, it's something that, without even mentioning one of the players, maybe one or two or three, who you've seen that they were at the edge of losing it, but then they were able
Mm.
to, because of sport, because of how we deal with them, they were able to contain themselves, and they were able to gain confidence in what they are doing. They're able, and today they are the one that tells you, hey coach, we writing exams, this is where I am, that I'm going to, and I always say, go get them, and stuff like that. So that's the kind of impact that we've always wanted to see. And that what maintains and sustains the program,
Mm.
because once it achieves that and continues to achieve that, then we know that it's working. And then whatever failures that might be there on the program, if there's a young person that is even one, because I used to tell them when we started, that if there's one player that will come to court every training session, for me that will be enough.
Mm.
Even if it will be similar to throwing back one side in onto the river, but it will make it different to that one side in.
Mm.
So that is how we've seen that actually it is having impact. Uh, Now we've always have to maintain that and see where we can do better in what already we are doing.
Man, I really love that. The idea of using sport to modify the behavior that will impact them and help them beyond just sports. It's
Yes,
fascinating
yeah,
because discipline, definitely, things don't just happen out of a vacuum. It has
yes,
to
yeah,
take some sort of level of work. Because, case in point, you spoke of when you just started, you only started with two students. If
yeah,
you didn't have the discipline to continue on, the enrollment levels would have stopped right there and then. But because you had that discipline, so it goes both ways. You set it
yeah,
up,
yeah,
you ride
mm,
with it, and then with time, it has progressed. And now, because for me, I don't even live in South Africa, but I see the
yeah,
impact. I've seen you on social
yeah,
media. So, to our
mm,
viewers out there and listeners out there, you should check him out. You should look at his academy. They are doing amazing and fantastic things for the youth down there in South Africa. And I also
mm,
enjoy the vision that you have, that it's not just
mm,
based in one country. You're starting
mm,
in South Africa, but the goal is Africa wide, right?
mm.
And also
Yes,
exposing the youth, to sport that can actually impact them by them having the necessary skills, because discipline is a skill. I tell
Yeah,
people all
yeah,
the time, give me
mm,
discipline over motivation anytime,
mm,
any day,
yeah,
because
mm,
discipline, you know, really helps us to be able to have the results that we desire.
yes,
So
yeah,
I really love that you have that part of your constitution for the team or for the
yeah,
academy, that discipline is one of them. That's very, very key.
mm,
Now, tell me a little bit about, let's go back again to your background.
yeah,
You used a part of the unfulfilled dream
yeah,
to
yeah,
fulfill someone else's dream,
yeah,
because that's
mm,
very unconventional. Most people do not pursue or process things to say, you know what, I didn't do this, it didn't work out for me. I
mm,
want
mm,
this to be able to work out for somebody else. There are
yes,
very, very few people who have that. I call it the growth mindset,
yeah,
because
yeah,
guess what? That's a growth mindset.
mm,
Because
mm,
sadly, the world we live in, we have some people who just say, it didn't work out for me, I will make sure also that it doesn't work out for the other person, right?
yes, yeah, mm,
Others, even when someone is doing really well, because they didn't fulfill that, it's so hard even for them to clap,
yes, yeah,
because
exactly,
they have what we call, the fixed mindset.
yeah,
They
yeah,
cannot literally just clap to say, you know what, man, I,
yeah,
I've always dreamed of doing that, but you are
yeah,
doing it. I'm very
yeah,
happy that you're doing it because I was
mm,
unable to do it. But
mm, mm,
sadly, the insecurities of other people, the failures that they've had in their past lives,
mm,
and when they see someone doing it, it's harder even for them to clap.
mm,
Now,
mm,
coming back to your position, you told me as a young Luyanda, I know it was not easy when
mm,
you see hundreds of your peers
mm,
playing a sport that you're not interested in, and then you not fully participating the way you would have wanted to participate,
mm,
being overlooked. You did actually mention that.
mm,
But then
mm,
fast forward to say, you know what? I am going to build a bridge, not
mm,
bend the bridge because I wasn't able to cross myself.
yeah,
I am going to build a bridge so that the children or the youth can use this bridge to actually live
mm,
their dreams that I was unable to live. That
mm,
is such a powerful, powerful mind of a leader, my friend, because I do see this quite often. There are a lot of people. Jay Z actually put it really well. Jay Z actually gives a story about his uncle, right?
mm,
The
mm,
uncle
mm,
beamed a lot of insecurities on his life. He says,
mm,
he was telling his uncle, you know what, I'm going to sell 1 million records. It's like, what are you
mm,
talking about? You
mm,
can't do that. Who are
mm,
you? I've been unable to do that myself. But
mm,
who do you think you are that you can do that? But the young man had the foresight, to believe
mm,
in himself, and he still went on. But for you, you are powerful enough because you do see that man, wait a minute. I am not 19, but there are
mm.
many 19-year-olds out
And
there that I
exactly,
can give this
yes,
dream to.
yeah, yeah,
I am
yeah,
going to build the bridges instead of
yes,
bend the bridges.
yes,
Instead of being hurt to say, oh man, if I
mm,
don't make it, then the other one,
mm,
the crab mentality, we are
mm,
all not gonna make it. If I don't make it, we are all not gonna make it.
yeah,
It's such a
yeah,
backward way of thinking. And unfortunately, I do see more of that in some people.
yeah,
How
mm,
did you get to that position? What epiphany did you have to say, you know what, this is my mission, changing
yeah,
lives using this, even though I'm gonna use my brain now. I know you play, but you
yeah,
don't compete at the same level as the youth.
mm,
What got
mm.
you to that position?
I have this perspective that it's nobody has a goal of disappointing themselves.
Mm.
So you always plan for yourself to achieve something and you work hard for yourself. But when you go to the mirror, replace yourself with somebody. Your reflection
Mm.
must be somebody. So every time I go on my mirror, not
Love it.
literally, I see those kids because the person I want to do better, the person I want to succeed in that, even if it's them, but it's the me that could not get into the
Mm.
same place. So it's very hard for me to disappoint myself because I see myself in them. So when I see them, I see me. So anything I want to achieve, so even in the little that I've got, I think of them. I sleep late at night, I sleep in the morning, thinking how I'm going to improve my situation so that their situation can become better. And I think that's one of the things that other people, because even people as somebody who's now a disruptor in basketball, there are basketball people who've played at even different and professional levels who will be like, but who's this Sazi? Who's this Luyanda Sazi? And in my mind, I don't have to respond to them, but I say to them, but it's the Sazi that you do not give the attention that he's giving the attention to somebody else that he
Mm,
wanted from you. So when
mm,
somebody says who's the Sazi and who have been in basketball and structures and have played professionally, and in my mind, I'm saying it's that Sazi, but I don't have to respond to
mm,
them. But because the person who really needs that attention of even responding, that energy, is the one who's like, I have a dream to play at the provincial level, at the national level, at the BNL level. I've got we've got young people who want to play at the NBA. I did not dream of that, but
mm,
I cannot ignore the possibility of that dream if I received that attention. Because if I had that attention, maybe I would have had that dream even if I did not attain it. Because if you have that dream, it's like aiming for the stars. Because if you aim for the stars, you can't hit low.
mm.
You can't hit under the ground. You can always
Right.
hit above the clouds because the stars, that's where the stars are. And
Correct.
you can't hit below the clouds. So even the absence of that dream was a result of that attention not being there. So I can't disappoint myself again because now I'm the one who's responsible for myself, meaning for these kids also. So then anyone who comes into my path now has to carry themselves a burden of this dream and mission that I have crafted to help these kids. And I've worked with many people who see
Mm,
what now I'm doing, and I'm like, at least now this is working, and everything I want to do, and I'm looking at myself, I'm like, that's you, Luyanda, there in that mirror, the one who can't dribble, the one who doesn't know what is a primary layup, the one
mm.
who doesn't know how to beat a defender. That's you there. How do I make myself better in that mirror? And that is how then I'm able to groom these young people, because then they are able, I'm able to get a coach to say, you teach these kids. I'm able to create camps where they can be clinics, and not only them, we've been
Mm,
able to do it with coaches also. So
right,
with officiating officials, refs and stuff like that, we've done things to say, because if we do it, if we develop coaches, refs, administration, it becomes easy for these kids, because then they are able to get a coach who's also is being developed, so
right,
that when he steps on that ladder of coaching, this one receives the coaching that has undergone a scientific process through development themselves. So that is how I've been able to place myself in the mirror of what we are trying to do and what we are doing currently, and that is the direction that we've been able to move.
I really love that. I love the idea of you saying placing yourself in the mirror. So there's no division exactly like you have said. Here's how I look at it.
Mm,
The the sense of Ubuntu or community,
mm,
sometimes we just parrot this word. We just say it. We don't actually know what it truly means.
mm,
Because the way I look at it, if the children succeed or anyone in your community, in your family succeed,
mm.
you succeed. Because guess
Exactly.
what?
Yeah.
Because guess what? That person then elevates, is no longer in a position. Let's say if there
Yeah.
were 20 hungry people in a village,
Mm, mm,
one makes it, then
mm.
it's 19 people
Yes.
that are hungry, it's not 20, right?
Mm.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
and then the
Yeah.
other one again comes back into the village, it takes two out of there.
Yeah.
It's no longer 19 that that are famished. In other words, it keeps
Yeah.
reducing, and then before you know it, you would have changed the community one person at a time.
Definitely.
And
Because
once
if you
we
look,
understand that concept, it really
mm,
helps to be for the community, because we understand that actually helping the community helps you. And I love
yes.
your approach that this
Yeah.
is also, you are living your dreams, you're living your best dreams
Mm,
through
mm.
the youth that you are actually empowering as well at the same.
Yes. Yeah. Because how I've also looked at it is like how you've just looked at it now. It's the same way. Because we might think it's just one player, but that player has others that they could influence, or that become, even it becomes generational, because that player will become better in whatever avenue, and then it benefits somebody behind them, whether it's a generation that has not been discovered yet, whether it's a friend, whether it's somebody. So the social impact that is created by just focusing on that one person
Mhm.
spreads to the others. It becomes this big pyramid, because you've got this person, pyramid that is facing down. You've got this person that you are assisting, but it diverge to other people. Like, for instance, we would have tutorials where our athletes will come and we provide a tutor to teach them mathematics. And they will invite somebody who's not even in a basketball team. And they are welcome, because then that person benefits from that through their friend who's an athlete. So for us,
Mm.
they don't even have to join basketball, because it creates an environment, a
Mhm.
system that develop the youth, and it helps them in a way as it will help others. Because if we're able to do that, then society becomes better. That's the kind of impact that we are looking at. So we don't just look at the back house that here is the cooking and stuff like that. Look
Mm.
at the front house exactly. Who's walking past? Who's going to see that actually there I can sit and have a meal of discipline,
Mm.
of academic excellence, and I can get a certain skill through the process that has been created for me. And that's the kind of impact that we want to achieve, and that we are achieving as we progress with the program. And you so that's the kind of impact that is required for us. Because for us, what is most important is not what we are doing. What is important is the impact of what we are doing to those that are beneficiaries of what we are doing.
Mm. What the young men are becoming rather than the
Yes,
activity
what they are
itself.
becoming exactly.
Mm.
Yes, because for us to show that they are playing, they're having fun, that's just an image. But what is
Right.
important is the impact beyond that image. What exactly produces the image? It must be the other way around. It must be the impact that produces the kind of image that we are as an
Mm.
organization, as an institution. And that is how we'll see ourselves. We see as ourselves as people who are being impactful,
Mm.
and that is the important part, because we can create an image, but without an impact, that image is doomed. It doesn't achieve what it needs to achieve. It's just something that goes viral, but does not really have a social impact, and then it going viral. It's a goat eating a can. It can Everybody can see it and enjoy a goat eating a can, but what
Mhm.
does it achieve? What impact does it have? I mean, a can will kill the goat,
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's the kind of thinking that and perspective that we have as we look at the program.
I love that because it's almost like you're summing up my podcast as well. That's the reason why I started this. It's
Yeah,
fantastic. You are such a forward thinking man, very, very proactive in the community.
yeah,
But before we end, another question I have for you.
yeah.
What challenges have you had, and how have those challenges helped you become a better person? Because for the most part, people they want me to ask it to say, what challenges have you had, and then how are they discouraging you? No, actually, I do believe I'm a firm believer that sometimes challenges make us.
Yes,
They
yes,
help
yeah,
us. They build
yeah,
character. They help us. But what are
yeah,
some of the challenges? It doesn't have to be with the academy, but just
yeah,
generally in your life, or it could be through the academy or the organization, or it could be school. What
yeah.
challenges have you faced, and how did you overcome those challenges? And how then, in return, did those challenges help you to become a better person?
Yes. I believe that sometimes in what we are doing makes us change in the way, because I do not know a lot about basketball, given that I did not get the attention that I
Mhm.
required as an athlete, as I wanted to be a basketball athlete and stuff like that. So I had to myself learn a lot of things through online and meeting people who are already in basketball, which has been an enormous challenge because I did not know much, and I still don't know much. But the more I learn, the more I pursue and learn, the more I become knowledgeable, because that is how we can drive away ignorance. We can drive it through learning. So it's not just about. So the academy is not a fully fledged academy where we have everything that we want, uh,
Mhm.
but we learn through the process. When we learn through the process, we become better. We are able to overcome uh, certain challenges, whether they are finance challenges, whether they are resources challenges. Like, for instance, when we started, you start with 14 basketballs, and maybe they are cheap. And then you discover that they can only last for a month. But those 14 basketballs were for 15 kids. Now, kids are more than that. Now, you must always change the process. You must always adjust, adapt, so that you can be able to be still productive, and how to prolong the equipment, how to control it, how to have an inventory of that equipment, how to have. So we build processes as we go, and we learn through those processes. And challenges are there and ahead, but when we create a process and a system of working, we will always overcome those challenges. Some we might not even overcome, but there will be functional challenges. So they
Mhm.
will challenge us for that moment. In the future, we'll be able to overcome them, because then we know now this is a challenge, and we are able to record that as a challenge. And as we move along the process, we will discover how then we address that challenge in the process. So there are those kind of challenges that we experience as an academy. Apart from that, as individuals, also in our learning process, in our thought process, in how we meet the objectives of the mission we want to, that the mission that we are driving, we face challenges on the way, and then we address those challenges. Some we will not address now, but what sustains the project is that we have a process, we have a product, you know. As long as the process and the system is there, the product we will always produce.
Mhm.
I usually say to like, sometimes coaches will change, because maybe their perspective is not aligned with the mission, their conduct is not aligned with the founding principle of discipline or things like that. They will change, but we At one time, we sat with parents and say, 14 years ago, the McDonald's across us was selling burgers. And I can tell you right now that even now they sell burgers. But the people who were selling those burgers 14 years ago were not there. The manager who was managing there was not there. But what has improved all along is the process, is the system, including the burger. The burger is still there. Ours is to produce athletes, all rounded athletes who are disciplined, who achieve academic excellence or strive to achieve excellence, who increase in the level of the skills and development that we provide to them. As long as we produce that, doesn't matter what the challenges is, as long as we produce the burger, because our core business is to produce a beggar, an athlete, and that is what we're going to continue doing.
Man, this is fantastic and fascinating. My friend, we will definitely have you back on here. Thank you for your time. And to our viewers and listeners out there, need I say more? I already mentioned this. You do need to look him up. He is actually transforming the community because of the selfless act that he has. If there's any support that you need, you can get in touch with him. And Luyanda, this has been great. And I do know that sport is just a medium that you are using, but you are
Exactly.
actually more interested in the product, meaning the youth, so that the youth become the productive members of society, great African leaders who can transform their communities as well, you know, using sport. And you've done so, my friend. And we are hoping to have you back on here so that you can showcase, some of these kids, and some of them, who knows, they may come out here in the States, and we can see what they are capable of. I just wanted to say thank you very much for your time and for your sacrifice, and it's been a pleasure having you on Impact Over Image.
Thank you very much for hosting us, and we really appreciate the platform. And we hope to see you soon as we continue with this project that we are busy on.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.